Welcome. My name is Natasha Sherman and I am your host. And my guest today is Chuck McEnroe. He is a Vietnam War veteran and a corporate retiree, but someone whose training has consistently been in customer service. And he has a great deal of expertise, and the subject of customer service is one that comes up for us every day, usually in the form of a complaint. But we're going to explore for big businesses, for small businesses, and for us as consumers, what we could do to raise the bar. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to ask you just first, you learned lessons in the military that you took with you because of who you are and the way your mind works, you took with you into the corporate world. So talk a little bit about those.
Okay. What I think is more important with customer service, because as you indicated, there's all sorts of customer service, but if the person or the employees do not have that camaraderie, okay, where they're not working together, you will not be successful. So certainly in the military, when you're dealing with life-threatening situations, they don't say, this is not my job, this is not my job description. Everyone chips in, we have a common goal, and we work towards it, okay?
I like that whole thing about this is not my job. And I think the very fact that you give up the right of refusal in a sense, like everything's your job, even if it's just to get the person, if you can't handle a problem, you get them to the right person. And clearly in the military, you have to. You can't say, oh, I'm not doing that today.
Right. In addition to that is, and when faced with a problem, okay, there's a mantra that we all had, and it was, don't mean nothing, okay? And if you take that into the workplace, it kind of eliminates all the drama that goes around situations that can be detrimental to a company as it relates to customer service, okay? In customer service, you learn to accept what's being told to you, okay? That is taking ownership. Once again, going back to the military, if you're carrying a piece of equipment that's vital when you encounter the enemy, you make sure that piece of equipment is working 100%, okay? You make sure the other people that are supporting you know their job and they can assist you, okay? So that has helped me in the business world.
So, it's so interesting because I think, on the one hand, it seems so simple, but we simply do not kind of get effective at it. This idea of everything, in a sense, depends on you. Because if your part of the job or your part of your mission isn't handled, then there's a breakdown all around. So again, I think it's a sense of being part of a bigger whole, a sense of having significance. And we all want to have significance in some way. The other aspect of it is that you don't take it personally. So, if a customer comes at you and slams you, which we tend to do as customers, it's like when you say it don't mean nothing, it's not personal. It's just, here's the situation, what's the solution? And how can I provide it? Or if I can't, who can?
Yeah. And even with employees, okay, one-on-one, I have interrupted heated conversations with employees because they were taking it very personal. And what I tell them, it's a situation. It has nothing to do with people, it's the situation. And that always worked well. Having a team effort, it's not something that happens overnight. It becomes part of a culture of an organization. And that culture has to start at the top, okay? It's not a situation as do as I say and don't do as I do, all right? They really have to walk the talk, okay? A good example out in the real world would be Trader Joe's. Mm-hmm. It's a place that I enjoy going to. Mm-hmm. And they really don't have a structure, okay? They have crew members, and these are the people that are on the floor. And no one has a responsibility. They rotate people. One day you could be at the cash register, next day you're stocking shelves, next day you're taking a delivery. That allows them to learn all the aspects of the store, plus the physical look of the store. It's kind of like a journey, right? So here's an example of customer service. It's not so much the person, it's the atmosphere, it's the whole culture of the organization.
And I think that's really vital. So first of all, the whole thing, it starts at the top. So you said earlier, somebody said to you, the fish stinks from the head down.
Correct.
So if the top isn't setting the standards, then what's going to trickle down is the same thing. But this whole idea, and I'm glad you mentioned Trader Joe's. I love Trader Joe's. And the reason why it's like when you describe, they all have experienced each other's experience. So everybody's stocked shelves. Everybody's been on the floor. Everybody's done the cash. So there's kind of an understanding, not, my job is more important than yours, but my experience always has been when I ask a question, they immediately will find a solution. I've been in other stores where I ask a question and they say, it's over there. In Trader Joe's, they will come and say, let me take you there.
Correct.
Let me go in the back and find out. So it's really a great example. One of the things that we're going to watch a little video clip. Richard Branson, this is part of a 7 top things that are important in customer service, and he's extraordinarily successful. So we're going to watch a little video clip of a couple of the things that he talks about, and it's really all customer based.
Correct.
So let's watch that.
Lesson number 1, be visible. Richard Branson says, a good leader doesn't get stuck behind a desk. Branson is always on the move, meeting employees, talking to cabin crews, and soliciting feedback from passengers. He's constantly asking for their opinions, and he keeps a notebook of the ideas and the feedback he's received. Lesson number 2, express a passionate commitment to serving the customer. Customer service starts at the top, and it certainly does in the case of Virgin America. Both Branson and Virgin America CEO David Cush believe that a superior customer experience is the key ingredient to success in a competitive global economy, regardless of the type of business you're in.
All right, so, some of the things he talks about, be visible as a leader. So it's not you've taken yourself out of the game. So he's visible with the customers. He's visible, and any level of business can do this. We somehow have gotten this sense of, corporate, these don't intermingle here. He gets out in the public. He asks opinions. He takes their advice. And he talks about passionate commitment to customers.
Yes, and that plays a role in Trader Joe's, actually. The job description that they have for people is make sure the customer has fun and they learn something. All right. So right there, anyone that comes in there can expect a fun experience, and they kind of make it almost like a treasure hunt. I don't know if you ever noticed that they do change the layout.
Yes.
One month the liquor that everyone knows, the $2 Chuck, is at the entrance.
Yes.
And then maybe it's at the other end. And they purposely do that, and they drop certain products, okay? So they create that adventure, if you will.
So it's an organic, intentional kind of shifting gears.
Correct.
It's interesting because as consumers, we have a role to play also. So one of the roles we have to play, and I know I've gone in and I've been pretty snarky. But on the other hand, again, I clearly am snarky for a reason. Not that it's okay for me to be snarky, but the person at the other end, if they're not taking it personally, they look for what's the problem, and then how can I make this person feel taken care of. But the other thing is I think we've stopped raising the bar. We go, yeah, that's the way it is. And I know I get these things to sign, petitions to sign, and one of them was for Walmart employees, for them not to have to work on such and such a day, and I get it. On the one hand, I feel, okay, let me sign this, and then I thought, well, wait a minute, let me think about it, because my experience in Walmart has always been horrific. So, pointing here, I don't know, ask that person. And so I think to myself, okay, the employees want something. What role are they playing in making sure that they get it? Because it's a two-way street. But I wanted to just share something with you that, so one of the things, it said that 70% of buying experiences are based on how the customer feels they are being treated. But it says while the trend is apparently for more people to complain, mobile phones and the internet make it easier to do so, and people are less tolerant than they used to be, this does not necessarily mean that customers are more likely to migrate to competitors. In fact, these days, time pressures and the hassle factor combine to create huge inertia in people's decision making. So again, that's where we have a role to play. We can throw up our hands, and then, it's one of my favorite quotes is, you get what you settle for. And we can settle, or we can be a demand for excellence. And demand doesn't necessarily mean we get snarky and all of that stuff, but it's just like, no, I refuse to shop here because X, Y, and Z.
Right. A good example probably would be in a restaurant. At the conclusion of a meal, you're always asked, how was it? And my wife and I are very big on customer service, and we do not accept mediocrity. And as you indicated, raising the bar is important to us. So we'll ask, do you really want to know? And it's interesting that they go through the motions of wanting to know, but when you start pointing out things, they become very defensive, okay? And then you question, should I really do this? A good example is we were in a very elegant restaurant. It was romantic. We were in front of a fireplace, and the meal was good. The food was nice, and they came and they asked. But the bread was like almost store-bought. And had they just baked some bread or had a relationship with a bakery, it would have been 100% perfect. So they asked, and my wife has a tendency of being more vocal than I am, so she asked the question, do you really want to know? And this was the owner. We identified as the owner, and she talked about the bread. And she was totally defensive, okay?
The owner.
The owner.
Yeah.
And which left us having a bad experience.
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to interrupt you here because here's the thing. The owner made it mean something personal. If you ask, then you don't have to do anything with that information. You thank the customer, gosh, I'm so sorry you were disappointed, and we'll have to explore that. That has the customer feeling like you've paid attention. And it just seems so simple. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was because you said that you did some research and, top 10 customer service ratings. And the first one was Amazon.
Correct.
And although there's no face-to-face Amazon and there's no person on the phone, there is somebody taking care of you. So tell me a little bit about what were the ratings based on?
It was interviewing people. And they listed those companies that had at least 500 responses. And Amazon rated 59% of the people that were interviewed, rated them as excellent. Okay. Personally, I recently had an experience where I ordered a number of things and I wanted to return one. So I went on the internet and I said, oh, this is going to be horrendous. So I went with some sort of expectation. And there was a key just to click on to say return. And my order came up. I clicked on what I wanted to return. They said click on this, and I got a return label, if you will. I affixed it to the box, and I sent it. And they said they were going to send the refund. So I suspected that they would have to get the product and then go to another department and issue a refund. Unbeknownst to me, they have relationships with UPS. And as soon as I dropped that package at UPS, I received an email saying, we saw it was in the mail and we refund your credit card. I thought that was amazing.
So it's really providing the customer with what they want. And again, no face-to-face, but it is customer service. There is a process, there's a policy. So they make it very easy for you to receive your product and to return your product.
Yeah. Conversely, the second company happened to be Chick-fil-A, where there's definitely contact with that person. Now, Chick-fil-A accomplishes that because they empower their clerks, they empower everyone, and so there's that esprit de corps that I mentioned about the service, okay? Those companies that empower their employees and make them feel that they're part of something larger than themselves usually have a better rating in customer service.
Yeah, you know, and again, and I want this to be useful for everybody, but you know, I work with a lot of small businesses, and small businesses tend to have a lot of challenges, especially startups. And if that were like the key ingredient of empowering your employees, and Richard Branson talks about that too, like I think it was they typically will choose maybe 1 out of 100 applicants, and attitude is one of the biggest things. So where does attitude get created? So A, you hire someone hopefully who has the attitudes you want, but B, you empower them to feel part of something bigger. And I think that goes back to the military as well.
Correct.
So how do employers train? And again, a lot of it is just training, but what do you think is important in the training that does the empowering?
Yeah, the training really, you mentioned small businesses, and I have a business that I get involved in a lot of these small businesses, and I help them increase their business. And when I talk about coupons and to drive people to the store, their first reaction is, I'm not giving anything away, okay? And it's not a matter of giving something away, it's bringing people into your store so they can have a positive experience. And what I find in these smaller mom-pop stores is that the owners just don't get it, okay? They don't see the value of having qualified people. So if they're not walking the talk and caring about employee or customer satisfaction, the employees are not, okay? Kind of goes back to the one person I worked for that used to say, the fish stinks from the head down, which initially I didn't even know what he was talking about. And then as time went on, I realized.
Yeah. So one of the things that you talk about is taking ownership. So clearly you want the employers to take ownership of being the head of something, and that every choice they make impacts all of their results, including how they talk to their employees, the sense of worth that they feel that the employee provides. So again, starting taking ownership from that aspect, but in terms of the employees, how do you train them to take ownership of customer service?
Yeah, and that can be very difficult because especially if they come from another organization where they don't have that empowerment and they start to question it. A good example is when in my tenure at American Express, I was given one of my responsibilities was a help desk. And it was basically young technicians that had to go into the departments and repair their equipment, computers and what have you. And I told them that I would like you to spend time with them and talk to them and find out what they do. And it came as a shock to a lot of them. They said, wait a minute, you're going to time how long it takes me to service them. And I says, no, I'm not. My number one goal is to make sure they're satisfied. Okay, so find out what they do, find out what their world is like. And it was interesting to find out the challenges were really with applications that we had nothing to do with. And occasionally, yeah, the machine would break down, the printer wasn't printing, but the real issues were the application, Word, Excel, and so on and so forth. What I did do is that I created a wall of fame. And if one of these users saw one of my people doing something positive, they would send an email. We would take a picture of them and put it on the email and frame it and put it on a wall. And it was interesting, the reaction of these customers, if you will, although they were internal, said, I want to be on that wall. And I said, just catch my people doing something good and let me know about it.
Yeah, it's really great. And again, people want to know that they count for something. And sometimes it's even undistinguished, even to them. And what happens is, if you don't think you count for something, then the person in front of you doesn't count for much either, because you're there just to get rid of them, or the typical thing is they're annoying and blaming them, taking it personally, as opposed to training them to, again, if somebody comes to you with a problem, okay, I'm taking ownership of this problem. I'm going to hang with you until we succeed in handling this.
That works. It's very effective. I've had situation myself. I used to work for a data processing service bureau, and very few people, if any, come to you and say, well, I received reports, everything is fine, thank you so much. And I can't help but think of one situation where someone's calling up, and I expected those reports. Where were the reports? And this was before the internet, so we used to deliver reports on paper. Can you imagine? And I remember he was very insistent on receiving them. So I told him, and I happened to be in Putnam County, and he was in New York City. And so what I told him was, those reports are going to be done shortly. I will get on the train with those reports and meet you at your home, at the office, whatever you want. What turned out to be something we complained about, he was thanking me, even though he didn't take me up on my offer, but he thanked me. Why? I took ownership of it. It became my situation, something for me to resolve. And as a result, once again, that becomes part of the culture. The owner of the company said, be creative, make sure they're happy, and I did it. And once you do it, it becomes part of your DNA. And that in itself has really affected me, and it was very rewarding to go out in the service industry and have that part of my DNA.
Yeah, I think that's a really great story, because you said something about the owner empowered you to be creative. So if you hire well, you'll hire an employee that you trust, and then you train them so that you're clear that you can trust them, and then you let them kind of expand and grow into the position, and then they get the feedback of having done a job well.
Yeah, what makes that work, when I was in the position to hire, I used to tell people, I hire an attitude and some native intellect. And if it's a technical job, obviously they should be able to do that. But it's more their attitude, how they view the world. And I would ask them open questions, what do you think the major cause of stress is? And usually when you ask that kind of question, they talk about relationships with people, okay? And to your point, that boss, the owner, not only did he empower, but he provided the tools, okay, to make sure that we can all work effectively, we can be creative. He also provided guidelines, okay? So you're not going to give a month's credit to somebody because they were complaining about something. So you had the ability to do something, you had guidelines to know how far to take it, and they went out. They went out and they did what they had to do, and that is satisfy the customer.
Yeah, so that's called being trained, and being trained well, and then being trusted. And, I keep harping on this because it really is so simple. And again, working with small businesses, it's almost like a no-brainer. But very often, small business owners look at employees as, God, I have to pay somebody, as opposed to, this is the source of my success. Right. So if you treated all your employees, whether it's true or not, if you just treated them that way, you are the source of my success.
Right. And there's a lot of, I hate to pick on small businesses, but like I said, the owners of small businesses sometimes don't get that. And so they're concerned about cost. All right? And so they will hire someone and pay them the least amount that they can get away with. Meanwhile, not recognizing that these people are the windows to your organization. Okay? And it's important to have these people represent your organization in a positive way. I remember doing consulting work, and the owner, he viewed customers as a necessary evil. So obviously the people in the front line, said, oh, here they come. All right, what a pain. What is this one going to complain about? And there was an example of the same organization I was consulting at where a customer bought product, paid for it, and they had to pick it up at a certain time. And they called up and said, we can't make it. The person that was supposed to take it, the situation, can you help me? And they gave the situation to me because they felt, I have more patience, I'll take ownership. And I did. I said, well, you have a problem and I want to help you. Long story short, I hired someone from the outside to deliver it. They came to the store, they picked it up, and they deliver it. The guy paid a premium, and he also gave that person a big tip. And he felt he was satisfied.
Yeah, and I think, again, what's missing is, and we all know it, we all talk about it, and yet we just kind of are resigned, is really the experience of being taken care of, the experience of being validated, the experience of being successful in taking care of something, the experience of being there for someone else. And again, if you look at it as, again, we're picking on small businesses, but I think it's important, and it's important in every aspect of business or life, is that people want to feel connected to. And if you're in survival mode and all you're looking at are the numbers, your numbers will start to diminish and get lower.
Correct.
Because they're a reflection of where your intentions are going. Save money, save money. I remember when I first got divorced years ago, going out looking for a job, to reinventing myself, and going to a daycare center. And I left in tears because I saw they were paying minimum wage, and these children are being left with people who, are taking this job because the school or the daycare center gets them at a low wage. And I think, we must be insane to be doing this.
Yeah.
We are actually out of time, but thank you for sharing your customer service wisdom and for your experiences, and maybe we'll do this again.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
My name is Natasha Sherman. Thank you for joining us.